This is the Bad Batch on TV podcast industries. We've reached the finale of season 2 and we're talking about episode 15, The Summit, and episode 16, Plan 99.
Why did Tech do that? He didn't let us save him.
He knew we were out of time. Tech put the squad ahead of himself. He made a sacrifice, Omega, and we're not going to waste it.
What does it mean?
The galaxy has changed. And so have we. It's time to put being soldiers behind us. For good. Wrecker and I think Pabu could be a good place to make a new life for ourselves. And the rest of it, well, we can figure out along the way. Omega, is that something you want?
Welcome back, fellow Batchers, to the Bad Batch podcast on TV podcast industries. We are at the finale of season 2 of the Bad Batch, and we'll be talking about both episodes that make up this finale, season 2 episode 15 and season 2 episode 16. I'm one of your hosts, Derek.
Welcome to the wake, fellow Batchers. I'm one of your other hosts, John.
Oh, I was going to make the dead joke. Damn it, you got in there before me. I'm Chris.
Yeah, we have a very somber start to this episode. Yes. I think we're all in a little bit of shock.
Absolutely shock.
Yeah. Obviously, spoilers for the rest of the episode. We hope you've watched the episode because I think I might have spoiled it in the opening quote that we had in there.
Sacrifice, yes.
Hopefully you've watched the episode. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode as well. But we will be going into full spoiler-filled detail, as we always do, on our last discussion of the Bad Batch season 2. What do you think, guys? How do you think this season closed out?
I enjoyed it with a question mark, okay? And that question mark is essentially just, and it sounds more of an inflection of, they left me wanting more. Mm-hmm. They left me with some sadness. They left me with some grief, some elation. It was a beautifully narrated back-to-back finale. I understand why they released both of them at the same time, because it worked so beautifully well. But some of it we signposted, like we called it way ago. Yeah. So, like, quick one, Sid. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine if that came out of the blue? That would be so much more like, oh my god! Like, it would just, so I think they, again, sometimes they played a bit safer with some of the more younger audience type stories, and then some of it is just really strong and just some of the best Star Wars stories ever told.
Absolutely.
So I think that's kind of, for these 2 episodes, we got a bit of a mix, but overall, very good.
Okay. How about yourself, John? Overall, what do you think of the 2 episodes?
Absolutely love them. I think great Star Wars animation, up there with Clone Wars and Rebels. And certainly with Rebels, with the emotional punch of Tech and the fallout from all of that. Yeah. So, like, for me, I thought it was fantastic. And dare I say, it might be a bit controversial, but at least until this episode of The Mandalorian, I would say that these last sort of maybe 6 or 7 episodes of The Bad Batch, I've felt more engaged than watching The Mandalorian, actually. Yep. Which is weird to say. But I thought it was really high level. And I mean, I can't even imagine what, maybe a kid of 7 or 8 who's watching this, seeing that.
This episode.
It's really kind of impactful.
Yeah.
And I thought as well, just the music around it was just really epic.
Absolutely brilliant.
Had a great epic kind of feeling to it. So absolutely loved them.
It reminded me old school John Williams to like really like just the soaring highs of some of the orchestra.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. There are moments that are just so well underpinned by the score that you're feeling every emotion that's on screen. I thought it was quite interesting. The quote that I've taken there has a beautiful score underneath it, but when you remove the score completely, it's a really really stark conversation that's going on between the two of them about the end of everything they've known between Hunter and Omega. And interestingly, with the score underneath, it's almost very hopeful. They're saying we're actually going to give everything up and go to this beautiful place, Pabu, to live out the rest of our lives. It's a beautiful score, but when you take it out, it's an interesting change to the dynamic between the two of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I know that, we had some niggles about, the quote episode of the week, unquote type of thing. Yeah. Just wanting it to sort of progress. But I mean, it's really, really punched through in these last sort of 6 to 7 episodes for sure. Yeah. And, but that is also, to remember that it's a reflection of the previous episodes that have come before that have set all that up as well. So, again, I would go to in Filoni, we trust, for sure.
And Jennifer Corbett.
And Jennifer Corbett. Yes, and Matt Micknovich as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Yeah, it's interesting you say about the Mandalorian. This is the first week since The Mandalorian started that I didn't watch The Mandalorian as soon as it came out. I haven't seen this week's Mandalorian yet, and we're here on Thursday. So this is the first time though since the start of the series, and I absolutely loved The Bad Batch. Watched it twice, obviously as we usually do to get my notes together for the episode. But I was really excited to watch it, and I'm going, I'll watch The Mandalorian. I'll turn it on when I get the chance to, and I'm sure I'll enjoy it. But I haven't seen it yet, so.
Well, also, just for clarity, I watched The Mandalorian as well, and I thought this episode of The Mandalorian was, again, just bringing things together. So I actually really enjoyed this week's episode, but I was kind of getting a bit, when I saw the tagline for it, sort of the overview of it, I was thinking, oh no, what are they doing to The Mandalorian? Right. But actually,
it was really good.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a strong one for this.
Certainly looking forward to it. I'm not down on The Mandalorian at all. I'm just very high on the Bad Batch at the moment. Exactly. Really enjoyed it. When I got to the end of watching this episode for the first time, these 2 episodes for the first time, the only Star Wars that I really wanted to compare it to is The Empire Strikes Back. This is where our heroes, who we followed for, in this case, 2 seasons, but in the movies it would have been 2 movies, have now lost everything. They've lost all hope, effectively. It's a hopeful ending, as in, we're going to go and get Omega back. But that's the same ending that you got in Empire Strikes Back, where Luke is looking out, having lost everything, including a hand, and they're going to go out and try and save Han in the next movie, effectively. But that's where we're leaving it, at that low point, like we got on Empire. And you're asking what a kid of 7 or 8 would feel like watching this TV show. Hey, that's exactly what I was when I watched Empire for the first time, going, what the hell is going to happen next? Oliver, there's still, the big bad's still out there, and all of our rebels have lost their hope. They haven't won the fight, effectively. So yeah, I can kind of see how it works really well for younger kids.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Hopefully it'll encourage loads more kids to tune in to the Bad Batch and lots more Star Wars. Good stuff. Let's hop into our discussion about the Bad Batch Season 2, Episode 15 and 16. First up, behind the scenes details. The executive producers for the show are, of course, Dave Filoni, Jennifer Corbett and Brad Rao. Episode 15 was written by Matt Micknovich, who we mention every week as the senior story editor on the show. This episode was directed by Nate Villanueva, who's directed many episodes of this season. Episode 16, written by Jennifer Corbett, showrunner, as we mentioned before, and directed by Stuart Lee, who's again directed loads of episodes of The Bad Batch. So everybody back involved for this massive finale.
Good stuff.
And John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your epic synopsis for the epic finale?
Sure. The Bad Batch looked to find out more about the Empire's secretive Advanced Science Division and its head, Dr. Hemlock. Eventually, they traced Dr. Hemlock to an imminent summit following intel from Echo. Hosted by Tarkin at his compound on Irado, the gathering concerns establishing a network of total control over the galaxy, in which Hemlock's research into the Kaminoans' cloning technology will play a critical role through molecular alteration of the populace. Infiltrating Tarkin's base to place a homing beacon on Hemlock's shuttle, the Bad Batch discovers that Saw Gerrera has also infiltrated the compound to plant explosives to assassinate the assembled top-level Imperial officers. The assembly of intruders are discovered, and with the alarm raised, the Bad Batch race to the railcar to escape the facility. But as Guerra and his rebels make their escape by shuttle, they set off the explosives, which disrupt power to the base's railcar, leaving the Bad Batch stranded over the deep ravine. Tech heads to one of the pylons to restore power to the railcar, but Tarkin orders air support to attack the stranded railcar, which decouples one of the cars. With continued fighter attacks, Hunter, Omega, Wrecker, and Echo are in grave danger, but Tech sacrifices his life to enable his team's escape. Heading to Ord Mantell to receive treatment for their injuries from AZ-3 and mourn the loss of Tech, the Bad Batch are betrayed by Sid to the Empire. Arriving on Ord Mantell, Dr. Hemlock captures Hunter and Wrecker, forcing Omega to come out into the open so that she doesn't lose more of her family. But Omega is taken by Hemlock, and Hunter and Wrecker are sent back to Aradu for interrogation by Tarkin. En route, Echo and AZ rescue their comrades, but are too late to get to Omega, who is brought to Mount Tantiss, where she encounters Nala Se and Crosshair. At Mount Tantiss, Omega also encounters another person, Hemlock's assistant, Emery Carr, her genetic sister.
Lots of loss, lots of reveals, and a big cliffhanger at the end of the season.
Yes.
What more do you want from the last 2 episodes of season 2 of The Bad Batch?
Absolutely. Railcars.
Jedis. More Jedi. No,
No Jedis. No Jedis.
no Jedis.
Railcars or monorails.
Mono.
I know. I was calling it a cable car and then realised it wasn't a cable.
No.
So, yes. Anyway.
I guess it's a railcar. Yeah, good stuff. Let's head into our blaster points. Let's start off with blaster point number 1. Named after the episode, episode 15, our blaster point number 1 is The Summit. I absolutely thought this was going to be the name of a facility, and then when they said Hemlock's going to a summit, I was like, oh yeah, that's a conclave of leaders of the Empire meeting up together. That's what a summit is, of course. That's the other name for it. I just thought it was the top of a mountain they were going to, which is,
but it was too.
Kind of is too, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It was proper. Loved the look of Tarkin's compound, though. High up on the mountain, it felt real eagle's nest type of thing. And in fact, this episode 15, it almost has a feel with that rail car of Where Eagles Dare, the movie where they have to get a cable car up
the
to
World War II one.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I really got that sense of Where Eagles Dare, I think is the name of the movie. And
there is a movie called Where Eagles Dare, but I don't remember it, so I can't tell you whether that had the cable car in it or not.
Yeah, it's a World War II movie, but I really it really added something with the cable car, because you always know that when rail cars, cable cars are involved, falling from them is always a potential in the mix there. But I love the look of Tarkin's compound, and actually just even seeing Tarkin's compound, because I always just associate him sort of wandering around the Death Star, effectively. Yeah. So this was kind of good to see his base.
At least an Imperial Star Destroyer on occasion as well, before the Death Star was built. But yeah, this is his home planet. Ariado is where Tarkin is from originally. So apparently his family have been in governance of the planet for thousands of years. So this is a Tarkin home world, but it kind of says a lot about him. It's a really secure location, isn't it? That idea that they can't get up to it in any way unless they take the cable cars up. He's got a really good security system for anybody that might want to hop the cable cars. But hey, our boys know how to get around that kind of stuff, right? Very
much so. But also, can I just, if you're going to be a supervillain, can you just not have a supervillain lair in a mountain? Like, all that needed is, actually it was thermal generators because it's an active volcano underneath kind of thing. And I was just like, cool. Like, you leaned into bad guy has evil lair in mountain.
Yes.
It was cool.
Yeah.
But I was like, you're also in space, or we're in the Star Wars universe. So you could have had it like the summit of a cloud city like Bespin.
Yeah.
Where the only way up was this hovering was one line. There was ways around. I was just like, it was very on the nose. I found it funny. I laughed and then I enjoyed it. But I was just like,
I think it would be less secure if it was like Bespin.
Well, you could, but no, it's even worse because there's literally no mountain at all. It would just be air underneath and one.
Yeah, which means you can attack it from all sides, literally. It's in air.
You could still do that.
From the bottom, the top.
But you could do that technically on a mountain too.
But you'd have to drill through the planet. Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Fair
All
point.
right. So which type of villain layer do you both want when you become supervillains?
Yeah, exactly. I just got very much Hank Scorpio level.
Yeah, but I would go with the Hank Scorpio level sort of, Red Skull type evil there.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Well, look, for me, this was fun. Again, once you get onto what the summit is and you start to see that like Tarkin's there pulling together like Hemlock and all the other kind of 2-degree bigwigs, generals and kind of doctors and stuff across the Empire, or the newly formed evil Empire. You start to hear some pretty cool, like, interesting evil things. Like, Hemlock just out and out says, he's just going to use the clones as testing subjects.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay.
Like, even one of his fellow evil bad guys, like, says, have they even given consent for this? Because, like, at least he's politically aware, because the Senate, there are members of the Senate, as he brings up, that are looking and actively trying to secure their rights and so on. But
as we've seen this season,
it's, I just was thinking, Hemlock really does not care about, any of that.
His response is they're property of the Empire. They're clones and property of the Empire. They don't have to give their consent, and it's a great way to get rid of them, basically. Give them to me as test subjects.
Although Although I did think Hemlock was pretty light on detail when Tarkin asked him how his research was going into the Kaminoan cloning technology. I guess his answer, truthfully, would have been, well, I haven't gotten Omega yet, so I've done nothing because Nala Say's not on board.
I think
that sense.
I think his answer is, I will keep throwing clone bodies at it until I break the code, or maybe if I can get Omega, then I can get her to encourage Nala Say to help speed along the process. But he's effectively saying, we have thousands and thousands of bodies that we can throw at my research. I think also, as part of his answer, which I thought was interesting, the reason why Tarkin's questioning him is because of the amount of budget that he's asking for, as all good managers do. And his response is, this is imperative to the Emperor. And in other words, way over your head, Tarkin, this project isn't stopping. I don't care how much budget I'm asking for. You may be in charge of the budget, but the Emperor is the one that's looking for this, and it's going to get done.
Yeah. Well, that's what was kind of interesting about this, because when you hear Tarkin sort of lay out this summit, it's a strategy to unify the galaxy and to deter dissent.
Mm-hmm.
And then he starts talking about molecular alteration to pacify the galaxy. I was like, oh my goodness, this is like next level manipulation happening to the whole galactic population. I was just like, oh my god, this is really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Do we think that by the time we get to A New Hope, that some of that galactic genetic manipulation has happened? Just because about pacifying, because I'm like, there's always been that question of, well, in the 10 plus years, the 20 years, depending on like the galactic empire, and I mean the actual I mean in terms of the people, not the actual empire itself, the organization. They have kind of just rolled with the punches to a degree. There's we learned there has been some ups and downs in between, but and we're learning more about it.
Yeah.
But it would explain somewhat why people just kind of Yeah, agreed to to kind of the Nazis are in control. It's okay. Fine.
Yeah, I think I'm not going to get into real world issues again as we try to avoid them on this show. True. But I think real world issues tell you there's a reason why people roll over and allow crazy people like this to take over their planet, their country, their universe, their galaxy. Unfortunately, I don't think they will need pacification of the entire masses for people to roll over and accept these people as their leaders. We've seen that happen in the real world. So, no, I think his initial plan may fail, and they may use that to control the stormtroopers, who again are a conscripted force who will be following them. So I think that's more what it'll be used for.
And the Death Star.
That's another thing, of course, to try and pacify the world. But the first time that's used to pacify the galaxy is when they destroy Alderaan in New Hope, right? That's the only time they use that weapon to intimidate. That's when it's coming out party, really, in New Hope.
Well, that's true.
But I think they may use this to make the conscripted force more pliable to the will of the Empire. Is what I would think.
Okay.
But we don't know. That's going to be the story of the third season, I guess, is what happens with these with the experimentation.
Yeah, I mean, it also, speaking of Death Star, it was good to have the little Easter egg of Director Krennic there with Project Stardust as well.
Yes, from Rogue One. That is the project that Jyn Erso's father has named the Death Star, or named his work on the Death Star, and that's how she finds the access to the Death Star.
Exactly, and which does raise the question with having Saw Gerrera in this show, would we get Jyn Erso? It's as a little, as a little kid.
Yeah.
And
I don't think she's definitely not old enough to be part of Saw's force at this time, but it's possible we're around the point that Galen Erso gets captured and brought back by Krennic to work on the project again, and then leaving her alone to go and join with Saw Gerrera. So I think we're around that right age timeline, because we're 15 years before the Battle of Yavin, 15 years before Rogue One basically happened. Yeah. So we're around that time frame. So she would be still a very young kid at this stage. So so I don't think she was on the Force attacking the base there. Unfortunately, we didn't see a very small stormtrooper in there. Aren't you really short for a stormtrooper? But we didn't see it. I don't think we saw her so far, but I think we're around that time that it connected.
Yeah. And I mean, I think with this whole summit thing, there's obviously the summit, but I think around it, it is the mission to track Hemlock's base where Crosshair is being held. Yeah. And I kind of liked Tech here. You see Hunter is really, in a sense, not on board with this plan. You know, we've said that already this season about one of the other plans, but, he doesn't see it as tactical or strategic. Whereas Tech sort of rolls in with, but he is our brother, even though we have disagreed with him. So we need to find where he's being held. So, it's kind of nice little dynamics there and also, we mentioned, I think last episode or a few episodes ago about, the blooming potential for romance between Fee and Tech, if only Tech could actually understand the signals. Yeah, and we actually really get that, on the nose here with Fee, trying to say, when friends speak together, it's a conversation, as Tech's whittering on about briefings.
Do you want a briefing?
Which is like so unromantic. Yeah. And, she's trying to make the point, don't go off with any strange women, like other pirates or whatever. And so I liked that. I liked how that was left, certainly given what happens in the next episode. You kind of, I like the fact you saw Tech almost data processing what had just been said to him, sort of looking in the direction that Fee is leaving. But, ultimately, this is, unbeknownst to Fee, a forever farewell.
Yeah.
Which is really sad.
It is. I think their relationship has been lovely. I love that she's able to kind of see through Tech to who he really is, and kind of spark up a relationship with a person that just doesn't understand anything outside of the work that he's been working on, I suppose. That was really nice. And then the other part of the summer, we've mentioned already, Saw Gerrera's attack with another group of rebels. His group of rebels. We've heard every time, I think, Saw Gerrera is mentioned within the history of Star Wars, from the video games to the Bad Batch, and originally in the Clone Wars and in Rogue One. Every time we've heard about it is that he goes outside of everybody else's strategy. He is someone that has a rebel force and is willing to use it no matter what other people have planned. Yeah. So what we see here is
he is the fly in the ointment.
He absolutely is, but to everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Like his plan here is to kill Tarkin and everybody else at the summit there. He actually doesn't achieve his plan. Yeah. So they're all still alive by the end of the episode. Yeah. He has damaged the facility and ruined the Bad Batch's plan, because we see Hemlock's ship explode, the one that they'd planted the tracker on. So that tracker is going to be completely useless. So he's literally interrupted their plan. He's done a massive amount of damage. It's a big facility. Yeah. He's killed a lot of Imperials, but he hasn't achieved the goal, and he's ruined their plan and was unwilling to accept any other option. That's what he was here to do, and he took his chance, basically. So I thought that was quite interesting. So again, we've talked many times about the idea that in the future, this organized rebel force that we see throughout the original trilogy of movies, that's not present at this time. There's just lots of factions that are taking their own opportunities here, and we'll see that develop as the years go on, and as seasons like Andor came out and tell that story about the formation of that real rebellion against the Empire.
Yeah.
They also just show how much of a person that I could use bad language against Saw Gerrera is. He's singular focus, and no matter what, just doesn't care who gets hurt, what happens, or anything. It's his way or the highway. And they painted that picture across Andor, across, like you said, the video games, across the OG Rogue One. Like, he's just a force to be reckoned with. He's just, like, no matter what you are trying to do, if it doesn't go to his plan, to hell and back with it, essentially. And they're painting that picture. The one thing I have noticed potentially is, because by the end of this, the guys now know Saul again, and they're going to have to go after. I think they may go Saul first over Rex, but to kind of, like, there's a chance that they could need that more crazy kind of rebellion guy than the Captain Rex and all those.
Maybe.
So I think by having Saul in there is a sliver of crazy hope with them for the next season.
Absolutely, and I think you really get the sense from Saw Gerrera as well that anyone is expendable. He won't call off his mission and plan just to save some prisoners. So the small things, it's, as you say, it's just that singular focus, but he's willing to sacrifice anyone and everyone for his goal of, because you get this sense from Saw Gerrera that, it is vengeance from him, and it's so focused on that, and nothing will deter him from that course of action. So you kind of get that sense here again, as well.
Yeah, I think keeping with his character. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the other thing, I just actually, on a lighter note, I really enjoyed the security officer in his little kind of booth with the other technicians, where he just kept, like, all these sensors were going down, and he's just increasingly sighing as he's like, what is going on now?
Oh, have you tried turning it off and on again? Yeah. Oh God, this place is falling apart. It's like, really, he was really good. Also, like the little minor mission of Amiga and Wrecker working together, where Wrecker's making sure that Amiga can get there and plant the unfortunately unusable device on Hemlock's ship. I thought that was a good little moment of excitement as she's trying to avoid all the stormtroopers. It was cool.
Yeah,
enjoyed that.
And poor little droid literally stepped on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Just caught on Wrecker's foot. The little mouse droid.
The crush mouse droid, yes. They would be quite annoying if you're trying to do a silent operation.
Yeah, they're quite squeaky, aren't they?
They are, yes, absolutely. Let's move on to blaster point number 2. The emotional heart of these 2 episodes, really. The rail car and our team stuck on board the cable car. Or the rail car.
Yes, in real jeopardy here because of the problems that Guerrera has caused for them by effectively setting off all the explosives. I thought this was really good. I mean, there's nothing like a, elevated action sequence to get my legs a wobbling. I did feel a bit like Wrecker, as they're heading over, where he's like, this isn't so bad. And then sort of the cloud opens up and he sees how high up they are.
Yeah.
But,
oh no.
Yeah, I kind of just really, I enjoyed this as well as then it being like a gut punch, with what happens to Tech, because it really did feel like high stakes, high jeopardy for them. And I love the fact that actually it came from Tarkin. Tarkin has always been that decisive person. I mean, so much so he got himself exploded because his advisors were telling him they see what the rebels are doing, and he's like, in our moment of triumph, it's almost too focused.
Absolutely.
But his focus of just like saying, get fighter ships to blow them off the monorail effectively.
But it could kill our men. Who cares? They're expendable.
Yeah, exactly. Like it all comes from his sort of
Sounds
real
like
decisiveness. Well, exactly. Yeah. As I was saying, it's just like that singular focus. I mean, Tarkin is really focused. And I have to say, just in general, I really like the Bad Batch. But the other animated shows as well, like Clone Wars, have kind of looked at Tarkin, over the course of their many seasons and so on, because he was that kind of like really interesting character from absolutely. New Hope.
Effectively, Darth Vader, when we met him first, was almost Tarkin's enforcer because he didn't really know about the Emperor. So you thought the villain was dead at the end of A New Hope. As in Tarkin, but he was just another underling in the Empire, I suppose. I love this. I love this scene. I think just even the makeup of the scene itself, where we have the 2 battling cable cars, Bad Batch on one side, the stormtroopers on the other side, shooting across at each other. There's no easier foe when you're in a shootout than a bunch of stormtroopers who are at distance trying to shoot at you, and they will hit. They're just about hitting the side of the rail car occasionally. But I did really like the setup of it. Love the having a 2-story rail car makes sense because then you can have a little bit more action, different places. That's quite cool. Everybody taking their shots, trying to get out of this situation. It's cool.
Yeah, and the thing I enjoyed was the Batch had been previously across the season pretty good at kind of stunning people, not killing.
Yeah,
they definitely killed a few folks in this episode. Like just getting into the summit. They end up they stunned 2 of the stormtroopers, and then the third one who came out the door just got flipped over the edge.
Yep.
And if you listen, you hear,
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Wrecker, while on the monorail getting, the side, when he's on the car, Wrecker with his automatic blaster, he hits 2 of them, and they go, like, they weren't hit with stun, they were hit with normal red. And then on top of that, kind of fell out the door, and I was like, oh, okay. Like, the boys are back killing. When life's on the line, they take life.
I think just some of those scenes of the stormtroopers getting hit, and then you see him fall from the rail car. I just was really, into the cloud were really good, and even once the power is restored and it kind of gets taken away really quickly on the line. As they go past the other car with the remaining stormtroopers, there's a few shots fired off, and you just see one of the stormtroopers getting hit and falling out as well. With, I guess, kind of a lucky shot as they just fire as they sort of race past. But it was a great little battle sequence, and just added to with then the fighters being brought in, but also then with Tech having to go out of the rail car in order to restore the power so that they can actually escape. As I say, Guerrera causes a lot of problems here. And I mean, just then, Tech's sacrifice is, I found it really big. I felt this was a big moment, to be honest. Even just, that just when he says Plan 99, it must obviously be the code for
one of us has to sacrifice himself.
One of us has to sort of sacrifice themselves.
This is Cloud and Force 99, so I presume that's why it's called Plan 99.
Yeah, and you see, with Wrecker and Omega as he plummets down into the clouds. So, this was big because, I mean, all the way up to that, Wrecker's telling Tech, climb up the cable. It's he goes, I am. So you think he's going to get out of it. So it was a real jolt that he didn't. Absolutely. And he,
if Wrecker could have gotten there, he could have pulled him up much quicker, but they have the imbalance in the cars that if Wrecker walks in there, the car will fall and everybody's lost then, So, massive sacrifice. And it's really well delivered. The tension that's in there is fantastically, put on screen. It's a really emotional moment.
Absolutely. If there is ever a moment where the phrase "no" should be in a Star Wars property, it was probably here. Yeah. Not after Revenge of the Sith.
I think that probably would have killed the tension and killed the mood.
It would have.
If they'd used that.
But I think I was actually screaming that out in my head as it happened.
Yeah.
And then I immediately thought of Darth Vader, and I was like, oh no.
No.
Oh no.
Oh no.
I still can't believe they've done it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Honestly, it's just, and I don't even know if they have done it. I'm so curious to see if this death will stick. I think it actually might, because then otherwise it, to a degree, gets rid of the sacrifice, but it depends on. And I know that we were chatting very quickly off air. I know they've kept death is a thing in some properties on Star Wars and it's not in others.
Yeah.
Like Darth Maul came back from a lot worse, whereas other characters have not.
Yeah.
So it will be interesting to see how they keep, whether we get into episode 4 of season 3 and you then see Tech's body and he's nursed back to health over a year or so, or
cloned. I mean,
there's so many options.
Well, yeah,
I was making so many kind of different scenarios in my head as to why he hadn't really died. It was going from just his grappling gun that they use at the start to get over to the compound, and this was coming from his belt. So I thought, maybe he's got one and he can sort of grapple his way to safety. But you just don't see that. But his gun is dropped. So I was like, is that the same gun? Because I actually didn't really want to believe it. And even, I guess, with Hemlock showing the goggles, okay, that's pretty definitive. But then I'm like, is that all they found?
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
That's what I was going. And then throughout, I was like, he'll be a surprise, sniper shot from the back or a shot. He'll turn up in the shadows in this episode.
Right.
And they didn't. And that's why I'm like, I'm very interested to see next season now.
Right.
Will this stick?
Oh,
and I have no qualms about either way.
Yeah.
But I actually can't definitively say it's a death.
I know, and what complicates it even more is because this is an animated show and the general audience for it skews younger. The old adage of if you don't see a body, they're not dead, that doesn't really work in this case because they're not going to show a body on the show,
A crippled, crumpled version of it.
They've pretty much as definitively as you can on this type of animated show, they've pretty much gone, he's dead. Everybody's mourning him. Here's the goggles. But could they bring him back? Absolutely. There's 100,000 ways they could. And would it be a great reveal? Absolutely. But I'm going into season 3 expecting that it's dealing with the fact that the Bad Batch have lost one of their own. He's dead by the end of this season. If he comes back, that's the nice big surprise. But I'm not going to look out for it because then I'll look for 16 episodes of a season where he doesn't come back.
Absolutely. And I think either way, I'd be happy. You know, I think, because...
I'm not happy he's gone.
No, I'm not happy that he's gone, so I would be really happy that he comes back. But at the same time, if they stuck to their guns, I'd be happy that they did that. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things. I mean, again, I was even like going, you know, for Rebels, effectively that group, really up until the final few episodes, because there was a big death in Rebels as well. So it's not unusual for sure, but it's just basically there has to be a season 3 from my side, just given where they've left it, quite frankly.
I hope so.
And I really hope so. But, you know, it just feels maybe too early if they have a season 3, that Tech is not there for the whole of it. Yeah. And if they have a season 4, I mean, I don't know where they're looking to take this story in the, you know, the mountain lair of Dave Filoni and Matt Miknovich and Jennifer Corbett, I guess.
Well, we've got what, as I said, 15 years till we see Old Age Rex balding and graying. So that's 15 years of stories for at least one of the characters that's featured in the Bad Batch. So and we've seen a few of the other characters as well. So loads of stories to tell, I'm sure. But yes, it would be a massive loss. But hey, we've had massive science fiction shows like Star Trek The Next Generation, which lost a major character in the first season, right? So, and still continued on for 7 seasons afterwards without them. So, it's entirely possible. Yeah. But, this is an animated show. The character is voiced by an actor who voices every other major character on the show apart from Omega. So, there's no particular reason why he couldn't come back. But I am very saddened by his loss. But, I'm not going to be looking out for him in season 3. If it happens, awesome. There you go. Anything else about the railcar? Anything else about the summit before we move on to our final blaster point?
The only little thing to add here is when the railcar, you know, crashes into the station as they, you know, escape effectively, and you have that whole war movie.
Oh yes.
You know, the slightly slowed down, slightly unconscious feel to the camera work, and the, you know, Hunter and Wrecker, you know, coming to collect Omega, who's been thrown from the crash car, firing blasters and getting back onto the Marauder to escape. I really enjoyed that whole sequence. It felt cool, wasn't it? Really cinematic, you know, and I thought, well, you know, props that this level is being done in animation.
Yeah, absolutely. You know? The creativity from really that scene is just fantastic. Yeah, really, really enjoyed that. I think we're all kind of in a bit of shell shock as an audience, and it's kind of playing out that way as well when you're seeing just whatever Omega's seeing as she comes in and out of consciousness. Yeah, really good. Okay, let's go on to our third and final blaster point for these 2 episodes. Betrayal and revelations in the final part of this episode. So you mentioned obviously the injuries that everybody sustains. It was an interesting choice here. You know, we've seen them on the run away from Sid for quite a while now. They found their home on Pabu. They haven't been in contact with Sid. They haven't even responded to any communications from her. But because Omega's injured here, they have to take her back to Ord Mantell to get fixed up by AZ3. I'd say they probably would have avoided going back to Ord Mantell for any other reason. But because it's Omega and they have to get help from the medical droid, AZ3 being originally from Camino, and the only place that can get him is Ord Mantell. So if you think back, you know, earlier on in the season, they basically went on the run after a job. They weren't expecting to never go back to Ord Mantell. So that's really why AZ3 is left behind.
Yeah, no, I thought it was, it's one of those moments where, you know, if Hunter looks back with regret on decisions he's made, that effectively, whilst he probably has little choice in the matter, going back to Sid, to Ord Mantell, it kicks off this whole kind of next bit of this final episode, really, which is Sid's betrayal. And just to be fair to Sid, not that I'm agreeing with what she did by any stretch, and I think it's because of Rhea Perlman's voice acting here, coupled with the animation. I like the sense of regret that you could see. Like, there was an element when she was speaking with Wrecker at the bar, it's like, I had no choice. And I felt that actually she meant it. She wasn't just saying it. And then she was really kind of dejected as, Hemlock effectively gives her the case of credits and he says, you can go now. It's almost like she kind of just dropped her head and sort of slinked off.
Kind of.
I don't agree with what she did. Anything like that, I not much sympathy for her, but I got the sense at that moment that she regretted what she did, even though she couldn't take it back.
Yeah, personally, by the end of the episode, I agree with you. By the end of the episode, she regrets what she's done, but there's almost a joy I felt in her revealing that she's sold them out. She basically said, well, I tried to do everything I could to keep you out of it. You're no longer of any use to me because they're bringing too much heat. You're no longer can go on missions for me, so I'm selling you out. Not only has she sold out the Bad Batch, she's brought the Empire to Ord Mantell as well.
Well, that's true.
She's basically sold out that planet. She's been telling them the whole way along, you can't be kept safe on Ord Mantell. This place will eventually be overrun by the Empire, and she's the cause of that.
Absolutely.
By this episode. Yeah.
I'm just giving
giving her
a little bit of column B as well here.
I can see at the end she doesn't take she doesn't take much joy in that caseload of credits that she gets. She's pretty dejected when he kind of says to her, it's like he's not giving her the reward of, aren't you a great asset to the Empire? He just says, thanks for your service, now get out of here, basically.
Yeah.
I'm very much more on the Derek side of things. Essentially, she just.
Let's just be clear. I'm on the Derek side of things as well. It was just what I noticed from.
Yeah. You do. And I agree. I think it's just at the end when she sees the full impact of her decisions. I think exactly. Just in that initial where she's talking to Wrecker, she's like, "This is your fault. You forced me this."
Yeah. Yeah. No. Absolutely. Absolutely.
The delivery. You're right. And John, you're right in the delivery. Like, to that point, it's been harsh. And throughout the season, they've been slapping us in the face with a giant fish of Sid is bad.
Yeah.
Sid is going to sell them out. Sid is not to be trusted.
Yeah.
And I mentioned earlier in the conversation here, for me, the reveal on this would have been so much stronger. I love my M. Night Shyamalan kind of twists, and I think they're really, really strong because it does kind of jerk the narrative in a way that you're not expecting.
Yeah.
And I was just like, could you imagine? Like, they maybe signposted once, but not just the consistent way that they did throughout the season. And again, I know the audience skews slightly younger, so they have to be a bit more direct. But could you imagine, like, that could have been the Lando level of betrayal.
Okay. Yeah.
Speaking of, like, Empire, like, you could have done an almost Lando level where you think Sid's in your corner, in their corner for the whole thing. And then she starts talking, and you're like, what's going? Oh my God, no, she brought Hemlock. Like, that's where you could have got, like, again, just in my slight. But again, I understand why they did what they did. I just thought it would be kind of writing my own narrative to a degree from this. So.
I don't think it takes much away from the episode. And I think, one of those things that we always kind of commented on, or when we realized her species is Trandoshan, and that's been something that we've been hit over the head with since they first appeared in Star Wars. These people are bad people, and we kind of had talked about, like, why are the Bad Batch staying anywhere near her? And then they started repeating over and over again, she has a very bad reputation, so I think the betrayal was coming, and I think Hunter probably knew that as well, but he thought maybe we can set down here long enough for given that she has a good relationship with Omega, maybe she won't turn us in while Omega's here. We can heal up and then put away our arms and travel back to Pabu and rest for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
You know, that's the conversation he's having with Omega. It's, and I do think there's a possibility that she would have let them away with it, given that they're injured and given that she had got that good relationship with Omega. So, they didn't trust her. That's why they were staying away from her for so long. But that there is still a betrayal there. Even though we know that she's untrustworthy, there's still a bigger betrayal there that she would turn them in, given that they're all injured. So,
yeah, no, absolutely. And I think then, you know, Hemlock coming in, getting Wrecker. I love the kind of face-off between Hemlock and Hunter. You know, effectively, this is the alpha males, really. And I just thought it was done so well. I think, with the two of them, you know, you just got the sense that they weren't going to back down. And in the end, even though he doesn't have any gun in his hand, Hemlock is the one that prevails just by, you know, if you do anything, Wrecker will be shot. And you see the stormtrooper putting the barrel of the laser to his head. You know, that's brutal. Yeah. And also, you know, this exchange for Omega, that you will be allowed to live. You know, he is very, very, very sure of himself. I loved how that played out with Hunter, who is also very sure of himself, but possibly a little more collegiate.
Yeah.
You know, in the Brotherhood, Hemlock doesn't have that.
Yeah.
You know, at all. So I really like that face-off. I liked how then it was kind of a bit of toing and froing, really. I guess that's my zig and zagging of people being, first they were captured, Omega escapes, but I love the fact as well that Omega's rationale, and you can sense it, is because she's just lost tech. She'd had that loss of echo for a while, and being told to run, and not to come and help them, and she goes against Hunter's wishes. Here. So I thought it was a real nice sort of moment for Omega's arc, really, in terms of what's happened in this season. You know, she doesn't want to lose any more of the family that she knows. At this moment, at least, you know, and I really enjoyed that. I mean, it's even once she's back on Mount Tantis and she sees Crosshair, even though he has betrayed them, she heard what Tech said effectively earlier in episode 15, about him being a brother, even though we disagree with him, and even with Nala Say, you know, so I like that.
Quick question. This season, so the last time we saw Crosshair with the Bad Batch was the last episode of last season. We haven't seen him with the Bad Batch since then, right? And they'd worked together to get away from Kamina. But he stayed behind and said, consider us even, and that was kind of it. So, but he made his choice to stay with the Empire. Since last season, Crosshair hasn't actually done anything to betray the Bad Batch or attack the Bad Batch or follow the Bad Batch, I think, I think I'm right in that. So this is the first time now Omega's seeing him since that moment where he was left behind on Kamino. So okay. All right.
Yeah, I see what you mean, John. For me, it's that I like that they have ultimately given Omega the ability to do that self-sacrifice, if that makes sense. Like, they've grown up the child. We talked about how much she had matured from season 1 into the beginning of season 2. She is a member of the Bad Batch now. She is, to a degree, the best of all of them. She has a bit of piloting skills. She has a bit of tracking. She has a bit of Wrecker's love and heart. She is growing to become part of them and part of the Batch. And by giving her the arc to that she sacrifices, well, see, it is a sacrifice. She's not killing herself, but she sacrifices her own self to save the Batch, and I like that. It gives her overall arc this season more weight.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we set her up then to put her in with Crosshair, so we could definitely, that's going to be interesting and fun to see where it goes in season 3. If, again, we get it, like, she convinces Crosshair to free her, and then we find about Nala Se and her sister. So I like what they've done by placing her there. I didn't think that was going to be a thing. I thought they were going to put the whole batch there, and the whole, like, that was the end of it. I thought they were going to, like, basically having to bring them all in, and then they have to work across her to get out. But by having essentially, again, you're right, and Derek, what you said, like, this is a very much more Empire Strikes Back style ending, where it looks like there's no hope.
Yeah.
Like, how are they going to find the Omega and Crosshair in this scientific facility, because they have no idea where it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
like
no leads, no way of tracking Hemlock's ship or anything like that. Could be anywhere in the galaxy. So how can they find out where it is?
But I like that Hunter has that vow. You know, we are going to get her back. Mm-hmm. He's adamant.
Yeah, I wonder if it will follow. You know, that path of, you know, the request really from Hemlock is send more clones for experimentation on this planet. So I guess that's a way to track them, right? If there's groups of clones being moved from prisons or moved from active duty into off somewhere unknown, they follow that to find their way to.
That's
to
how they discovered
Mentantis.
it first.
Yeah, exactly.
So again, there's definitely ways. It's just, again, it's the bleak outlook.
Yeah, exactly.
But it leaves us with.
Which we love.
Yeah. Oh,
well, yeah.
But it also leaves us, it leaves us with all these cliffhangers. Yeah, I suppose, it is a cliffhanger.
You have a sister, Chris. That is a massive cliffhanger.
Yes.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And very Return of the Jedi.
Yes. There is another.
There is another.
Yes.
But it's when Luke and Vader are battling in the Emperor's throne room, and he just sort of draws Luke out. That's all I could think of when sort of this reveal of the sister.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we will only get a season 3, and that's our Return of the Jedi ending.
There you go. That could be it. That could be it.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because for the last couple of episodes, there's a Dr. Scalper who's the female assistant of Dr. Hemlock, and I thought that this character was the same female assistant of Dr. Hemlock. It's a different character completely. It's Emery Carr is the name of this character that approaches Omega at the end and says, you know, it's interesting that you would trust the Kaminoan, meaning Nala Se, and not me, considering how close we are. I'm your sister. So it seems like she is another female clone, a much earlier generation of female clones, or maybe she has the same aging that was given to the Bad Batch and not to Omega. So I think we know now that Omega was created in the same batch as the Bad Batch, but wasn't given any of the genetic modifications to them. She was literally made in the same room as them. That's what we found out last season. So potentially, she is also another member of that Bad Batch crew, or she was on Kamino with Nala Se and moved to Mentantis.
Well, and I guess that's why the importance of Omega to Nala Se, even, you know, if she's built up the bond, is down to, you know, how she's been able to alter the genetics. So there is little to no aging. I mean, there is some aging in this from season 1,
of course,
you know, but it's maybe it's more natural,
real time. Yes.
Yeah, it's real time, exactly.
Yeah,
and so, you know, that sort of depth of knowledge that she has, and that's why she's so critical for Hemlock, and why Omega is so critical to Hemlock in order to use her as leverage effectively.
Yeah. I felt like it was going to be something else, and then it was literally that. I've been told by the Prime Minister that Omega is important to Nala Se, so I'm bringing her here, and she will pay the price if you don't do what the Emperor asks. And Nala Se says whatever it is the Emperor is asking for, which I think is clones of the Emperor, given that's the final story we get in the sequel trilogy. She's saying that's impossible. His ask to clone him is impossible. So, it's make it possible or Omega dies. Seems like quite a big cliffhanger, right?
Which I don't understand that part. So just like a clone seems simple. I'm wondering if it's a clone with the midichlorians. Like that's the impossible element.
Yeah, because we've got to get we've got to get Grogu's Jedi abilities incorporated into the cloning technology for the Emperor, basically, right? That's why they were trying to steal Grogu in Mandalorian, was trying to get his genetic code. That was the initial mission.
Yeah.
So and it takes them. We know it takes them another 30 years to perfect it, right? Because that's the Emperor disappears for a while. So So
I was somewhat, I'm not going to lie, I was somewhat, that's like, they literally told us ages ago that's exactly why Hemlock wanted Omega.
Yeah.
They told it to us. I still thought it was going to be something else. I did expect, like, he was going to want her for something else as well.
Yeah.
But, fine. Like, it's a way to move the story forward, so I get it again. Just, when are they going to tell me she's a Jedi?
They're not, Chris. They're not.
I know. So actually, I'm going to say this from my side. I no longer think that.
Yay!
Literally, they have given her all the opportunities now throughout this season to have that Force-sensitive element come out, to have some form of connection, to have something.
Yeah.
That is not the story. That's fine.
Yeah.
Like, give us someone who is, because I like the Space Wizards. That's my thing. But overall,
we had Gunji earlier on this season, a Wookiee Jedi.
Yes, I want an ongoing.
He could come back. He could come back next season.
Maybe.
You never know.
We just never understand him.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't understand Chewbacca for 6 seasons. No, I will admit that was my complaint about only having Gunji in that episode, Chris. So I know you're calling back to my complaint about Gunji as well. So that we couldn't understand him in the episode. So lots of great moments at the end here. Interesting that Crosshair is completely unconscious here. He has no idea that Omega has arrived. Omega can't wake him either. So I thought that was quite interesting as well. So hopefully they'll rekindle their relationship now that Crosshair has kind of changed his mind about the evil Empire and what they're doing. Anything else about the episode that we want to talk about, guys?
I've just got 2 little things. Again, I felt Hunter looking up at Hemlock's ship as he takes off from Ord Mantell. Really cinematic, just with the light on his face as well. Yeah. Kind of remind me possibly Alien or something. One of the other space odysseys, I guess. And I don't know whether it was just me, but as the Marauder left Ord Mantell, was it damaged? Because it looked like one of the engines had a trail of black smoke, but it wasn't particularly noticeable. But then even just before the jump to hyperspace, which I loved that actually, just the bump as it goes, it looked like one of the engines was sort of damaged, but then I just thought I was imagining it.
Maybe I need to clean the TV.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is just
it could be.
It's just one streak of black on the TV that I haven't cleaned
and a couple
off.
of cobwebs that have just been floating in the air.
But you did watch the episode 3 times and you did notice it. So
I did.
So potentially it was damaged.
I honestly, I missed it too. Yeah.
I've just got 2 quick ones. Loved the battle where Echo steals the AT-ST on the streets of Ord Mantell and takes on the Empire with that. I love Hunter and Wrecker looking at each other going, "Oh, that's definitely Echo," as the noise comes from down the street. Thought that was a really cool moment and a nice callback to how many times those AT-STs get stolen by the rebel forces across all of Star Wars. Really cool. The other one I just wanted to call out just because it is quite interesting that both season 1 and season 2 have ended on Mount Tantus with a new prisoner arriving who is of great importance to the Empire. This season, Omega. Last season was Nala Se's arrival. So just think it's interesting that is obviously a central location for the Bad Batch. This is their big location, right? This is the
Holy Grail.
This is the big bad. Yeah, that's what they need to find. That's going to be the mission if we do get a season 3.
Hunter is going to have to go all Indiana Jones. Yeah, absolutely.
Have to climb up Mount Tantus.
Drop his hat or his bandana, have to grab it under a door.
There you go. It's all in Lucasfilm, guys.
Yep.
Good stuff. That's it. That's our thoughts on all of The Bad Batch Season 2. So let's wrap it up. Any final thoughts on The Bad Batch 215 and 216? John, overall, what did you think of the episodes?
I absolutely love these episodes. I'd give these 5 tech supports out of 5.
Nice.
I just enjoyed everything about it. It was a really good wrap up. Leaves you with, I mean, loads of revelations, you know, being left on tenterhooks, but to me it was also like, oh, we're definitely getting a season 3.
Okay.
And I'm convinced of that until, I guess, someone in Star Wars says they're not. But, you know, there is a lot of story here. And I loved it with the reveal of Omega's sister. I thought just the whole family being ripped apart with Omega being taken, but also the death of Tech, or the sacrifice of Tech, really good. And so I felt this just fitted really well. And I think the lead up to this as well has just been like spot on. So yeah, I'd give it 5 tech supports out of 5. Really 2 great episodes here, with lots of action, lots of cinematic feel, from how it's been directed, to the music and so on. Yeah, no, really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Like that even that arrival at Tarkin's planet, looks like it could come straight out of the movies. Like, not even like this is nice animation. This looks incredible, for a TV show. Loved it. How about yourself, Chris? What do you think overall?
I really enjoyed it. I've had some complaints this season. I'm not going to lie and that's it. I didn't. In terms of the adventure of the week, even one of the 2 of those adventure of the weeks were actually fun. I think they just consistently nail the ending of the like the story thread that they're putting through. And I know they suffer somewhat from having to maybe extend that story out, and they could cut some of those and give us like shorter seasons, but whatever. Overall, this ending, these last 2 really did ratchet up the grief, the loss, the tension, and enough that I'm like, oh, I need a season 3, at least just like 6 episodes to close it out.
You're always trying to shorten down the stories, Chris, aren't you?
No, I just mean like, don't cancel it out. Don't
just stick it in my eyes. I only want to know what happens. I don't really want to watch it. No,
yeah, exactly. Just give it to me now. Put it in my brain. But overall, look, I think it was really good. I was not expecting the death. Like, again, was expecting very much a quick resurrection in the next episode. Like, it was, but it looks like it might keep, so, and very interested to see where they go with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Derek, what about yourself?
Yeah, loved this close out to the season. You know, I was thinking about it this week, that question that we had about the episodes that didn't directly tie into the overall story. And I'm slightly opposite to you, Chris. I actually think they needed a few more minutes in those episodes just to tie them into the overall story, because the episodes were great. I really enjoyed the entire season this season of The Bad Batch. It's a 16 episode show. Having those extra missions to develop the characters, I think have been fantastic. They've done a great job. My only complaint was you could have just said something that tied it into the overall narrative. They felt more standalone than they could have been. But these 2 episodes, what a way to end this season. What a way to close out the story of the Bad Batch, as they are now alone and trying to find Omega and where she's gone to. She's in a very dangerous position. This is a very bad place for her to be. So, and what a brilliant villain to bring in for the last 4 or 5 episodes. Dr. Hemlock has been so good. What a great addition to the show. Really, really good. Cannot wait to see what happens when we hopefully get a season 3. Might as well say this now. Star Wars Celebration Europe is on in about a week's time over the Easter bank holiday weekend in London. We expect the announcement there of a 3rd season of this show. Dave Filoni originally had said that this is going to be probably a 5-season arc if they can get it. Obviously, that still has to be confirmed. I would be I would be very surprised if they haven't got a plan in place for the third season of the show. And it's not coming next year or the year after. I think there's a 2-year gap between the first and second season, so you'd expect the same for the third season. So, and I'm delighted about that. That would be great if we get an announcement really soon about that third season.
Yeah, it would. Yeah. Definitely.
It would seem weird for that weekend to pass by and not have an announcement of the third season. So hopefully we'll find out really soon.
Fingers crossed. There has been some shake-ups across Marvel, Disney, and everything in between. So fingers crossed we can get some answers.
Yeah, there's been a shake-up across every single streaming service because they found out they were putting out way too much, dropping it all in a day and not making any money back off it. So, I think going back to seasons like The Bad Batch, where you get 16 weeks of half-hour episodes, I think that's a much better strategy for them to do. So they'll probably go back to doing that instead of delivering 12 seasons of one property in a year, which nobody can catch up on. I think that's so I think Bad Batch is safe is my point. Anyway, we'll find out in about a week's time. Let's pop on over to Facebook for some feedback on this episode. First up, Alan Morday says those last 2 episodes of Bad Batch were dark, possibly the darkest I've seen Star Wars do, more so than Andor, I think. Love the Where Eagles Dare cable car homage. Also, was the female with Saul meant to be Jyn Erso? Poor tech. Also, the soundtrack for this episode was amazing as ever. Excellent, Alan. So maybe it was Where Eagles Dare, John.
Yes, well, I knew it was something like that. Yeah. It's like, I was thinking Eagle's Nest, but then I was thinking, oh no, that was Hitler's sort of residence, which I guess similar
could be that too.
To Tarkin in some way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely remember the cable car rescue, and I thought it was Where Eagles Dare. Yeah, good spot, Alan, there.
Yeah. And we do think Jyn Erso would be too young to be on the mission with Saul. I don't think I saw any younger character with Saul in the episode. Did we?
Not that I can remember.
Did we see him back in the ship with a younger character just before he pushed the button when they were escaping? Was there a younger?
No, I don't remember. No.
I might have to have a look at that really quickly. Good stuff. Thanks, Alan. Dr. Bob Phillips says, no, sisters. At least that goes some way to explaining the more humane approach she had to Crosshair in earlier episodes. In episode 15, rightly I feared for the mouse droid and wrongly for Omega in the shuttle garage. Really enjoyed the idea of 2 squads of rebels getting in each other's way, and the air car hangar ending was suitably tense. Episode 16 didn't quite have the same degree of delight. Maybe the power of the penultimate really does have something, Chris.
Maybe.
Apart from when Omega really did get stolen by the Mengele analogue of Hemlock, I do hope there's a bunch of folks who now go and learn more about the horrors undertaken by the Nazi doctors and their research on natural clones, identical twins, in death camps during World War II.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Bob. Not only is the Bad Batch delivering its darkest take, I think, and rightly so, it is the comparison here, and I guess what with, Dr. Hemlock is that, evil scientist that will do anything for, the pursuit of truth in quotes, but, effectively stepping on, rights of, in this case, anyone else, but in particular the clones. As I mentioned, even one of the other higher ranking Imperial officers managed to sort of identify that maybe what he was doing was wrong, even though he's still on board with the goals, which I guess links as to, persuaded mentality. So, I love the 2 squads getting in the way, and ultimately Saw Gerrera being the nightmare that really led to Tech's death. I mean, other than the actual mission, but, if they had just managed to get to the other side.
Or if Saw had maybe given them a lift.
Well, that's
that
true.
Was the bit I never did.
That is absolutely true. Yeah. That's the same. Doesn't matter who he gets rid of on his journey.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Bob. But overall, the World War II analog is becoming somewhat clearer, and they're leaning into the more darker side of Star Wars, which is fun.
Absolutely.
Fun and informative. Excuse me, let me finish my conversation.
Informative.
Informative.
Yes, informative. Yes.
But overall, look, thank you so much for the feedback, Dr. Bob.
We have some feedback from Lindsay Lost. Do you want to take that, Chris?
Sure, I'll take that. Lindsay went to say, episode 15 is the calm before the storm. Episode 16 had me on an emotional breakdown, one scene after another. From Tech's death, Sid's betrayal, Hemlock's success at capturing Omega, down to her finding Crosshair unconscious on one of the experiment tables. This episode did not hold punches. Mm-mm. It is so depressing, yet so good at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just to give my overall assessment of the season, this has to be one of my absolute fave seasons of any Star Wars television. I know from earlier episodes, not everyone's vibes with it and consider the stories as filler, but to me, it was very symbolic of the journey that the Bad Batch was going through. They were trying to figure out their place in the world outside of being soldiers for the Republic. Mm-hmm. It was a slow burn, but a very well done story of a small character development, one episode at a time. And it manages to pay off the little sprinkles of hints from across the series, and really brought their A-game for those final few episodes. I sincerely hope we get a season 3 renewal to continue with these stories. I am so devastated as a fan of these characters, but on a storytelling level, there is so much more for them to explore. Mm-hmm. With Hunter, Wrecker, Echo dealing with the grief and trying to save Omega. With Omega and Crosshair, what kind of bond will they have in comparison to the bond that they both had with their other brothers? I'm so curious and devastated at what Crosshair will think once he finds out that not only did they try to save him, but Tech died in the process of doing so.
Mm-hmm. That is true.
To think Crosshair looked so prepared to never escape Hemlock's hellhole just to protect everyone, only to lose Tech and have Omega end up in Mount Tantus. I could really go on and on about how much this show impacted me, but I will spare you all and just say cheers to all of us for making it through this phenomenal season of Star Wars. And here's to hoping for more and for a hopeful resolution for all of them as well. Thanks, Lindsay. That was amazing feedback. And yeah, I think, look, I know it didn't vibe, as you say. Not every episode vibed with me, but overall, I agree with you. It's been a phenomenal season of TV.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's hope for another season. They just did such a good job, particularly on these last few episodes, which have just been tension filled. They've been really, really interesting character development pieces. Even as we said, Pabu was such a good episode because we got to see what a home life for the Bad Batch could have possibly been like, and it underlined in this episode where it was right. Let's put down arms. We've lost one of our own. This is the end of our time out as mercenaries in the world or as soldiers in the world. And that doesn't pay off. That doesn't happen at the end. So pull the rug out from under us one last time.
Yeah, I'm totally with you, Lindsay, on your feedback for sure. And I'll tell you this now, I'm convinced, go with my hope and conviction, we will be getting a season 3 for Bad Batch. I'm absolutely sure of that.
I believe so.
Because it would be really weird. I mean, unless it comes back in another 5 years or something.
Yeah, let's hope they don't do a Clone Wars on it and come back in 6 years, 7 years time.
So I'm really, really hopeful we'll get a season 3 renewal as well. And let's hope it is only a week away.
The renewal, not the drawing and the animation of the 3rd season.
The renewal, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because it takes a little longer to animate than that.
Definitely, yeah. Good stuff, Lindsay. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Maria Granata says, my son watched it before me and told me something big and unexpected happened in the last episode. Once I saw Tech running with no protection from falling off, I knew where it was going, though I couldn't believe it. I'm heartbroken, and the clues were there. He got a lot of development this season, and in this episode he didn't say goodbye to Fee. Overall, I've enjoyed the season a lot, even the slow episodes, hoping for season 3 soon. Thanks, Maria. Yeah, absolutely. When you look back at the previous episodes with Tech getting a lot more development, you can see not so much that it signals his death, but it impacts much more heavily emotionally because you have had that development. You've gotten to know the character, and I think certainly with Thee, that's a real kick in the teeth. Really.
It is. I think as Walking Dead fans, that used to be the indicator. Once anybody got a side story or a big highlighted moment, they're dead in 2 weeks' time. That used to be what happened. And Maria, I feel your pain. It's always horrible when somebody in the house has already watched the episode beforehand and is slyly implying that some massive big moment happens in the episode, isn't it?
It is. I don't know who you're talking about.
Well, Maria, all I got yesterday when I came home from work, John had watched the 2 episodes twice, and all I got was him walking around the house going, Director Krennic, over and over again. So
that makes me sound just crazy.
Well, that's just you, John. It's okay. It's okay. I put up with it. No, I know that, so it's okay. But yeah, so I thought some massive moment with Director Krennic was going to be happening in the episode. His one line, which is credited to Ben Mendelsohn as well. He actually gets a credit for that one line that he says to Governor Tarkin. But I was expecting a lot more from him, given John's excitement at seeing him on screen.
Yeah, well, there you go. Didn't really spoil it after all.
You didn't ruin it. Good stuff. Thank you so much for your feedback, fellow Batchers, for this entire season of The Bad Batch Season 2. Hopefully we'll hear from you again when we come back with our coverage of, let's say, Season 3 of The Bad Batch. We'll be back. We'll be back with Clone Force 99. So hopefully we'll hear about that at Star Wars Celebration UK in the 7th and 9th of April next week. But later this year, we hope to be going to live-action Star Wars for the first time with Ahsoka, the first live-action spin-off of the Clone Wars series, starring Rosario Dawson as our favourite former Jedi.
Absolutely. Gosh, I am hoping it is Andor level good. Otherwise, I will be calling it Ashoka.
I'm sure it's going to be really, really good. We've got Grand Admiral Thrawn going to be in there. We've got Ezra Bridger's going to be in there. Sabine Wren from Star Wars Rebels. Really excited. And Chris has time before that to actually watch the rest of Rebels and see why we're all so excited about these characters.
Yeah, I have time. Sure, I'll try my best. How's that? I will try my best.
Yeah, you'll have loads of time in the future.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it, though. That's the end of our coverage of Star Wars The Bad Batch. We do have loads of other shows that we're going to be covering this year, of course. We cover lots of other animated shows like Invincible on Prime Video, Marvel's What If, Season 2 should hopefully still be coming out on Disney Plus this year. And we are continuing our coverage of Star Trek Picard at the moment. We've got 4 more episodes of Picard to come out on this feed here on TV Podcast Industry. So hopefully you'll find something else to fill up your time while waiting for Season 3 of The Bad Batch.
Yes, and if you want a really good one, join us in June, where we dive into Derek's favourite character in all of the Marvel Universe.
That's right.
Nick Fury in Secret Invasion on Disney Plus.
I thought you were going to say space then, Chris.
No, he's not space.
Yep, he's coming back from space
this time. He's coming back from S.H.I.E.L.D. in space to be S.H.I.E.L.D. on Earth.
Well, S.H.I.E.L.D.'s gone, unfortunately. He is coming back from his work in space with the Skrulls for Secret Invasion. Can't wait for that. Really, really excited. That's coming on the 21st of June for its debut on Disney Plus. Really looking forward to that. Great stuff. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again next time, hopefully.
Yes, thank you very much, and speak to you again soon.
Yes, thanks so much, fellow Batchers, for joining us. Can't wait to chat to you again soon when we talk about Season 3, which is hopefully being announced next week and probably coming out this time next year. Who knows? Or the year after.
Might be 2 years.
I'm just living my best hope here.
Living the dream.
Living the dream. As Saw Gerrera once said.
He didn't, and that's still. Anyway, bye.
Yep. Bye, fellow Batchers. Remember, keep watching, keep listening, and keep being bad.
Bye.